All right, and welcome back to Blow Up the Team. I'm Matt, and once again, we are doing some MLB preseason grades. Uh, today we're going to be yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Angels and their outlook on the 2020 season. So the 2019 Angels, pretty much Angels fashion, really great offense led by the absolutely insane Mike Trout and the aging former Superman Albert Pujols and some pretty interesting breakouts in Tommy La Stella. Guy had been a bench guy for the Cubs for a bunch of years, never really had a chance to start. Came up, he struggled a little bit at first, and then just started hitting like crazy. He actually got selected to the All Star game before his season ended due to injury. But and then you also had rookie David Fletcher come in and hit like crazy for you. So hitting 290 the rest of the way, playing 154 games. So you had some pretty stellar offensive performances. You also got to see Shohei Ohtani not be able to pitch, but be able to hit a bit. You know, only got to play in 106 games because he did get injured again. But we'll talk about that later. But as the case for this team, they had no pitching. They tried the Matt Harvey experiment. I think Matt Harvey is officially just about toasted for the league. Didn't go well there. Um, they had no real. They had the tragedy with Tyler Skaggs dying. They had a really nice game with Felix Pena throwing a no hitter, combined no hitter with the rest of the Angels, and so there was some moments there with good pitching, but overall, like it was a bad year to be an Angels fan because Tyler Skaggs dying and just that shook the whole team, and you could see it. They were really messed up over one of their close friends passing, and no team should have to go through that, especially in the middle of the season. So it was a rough season for the Angels. But yeah, they did have some interesting performances, especially from Hansel Robles, who we'll talk about later uh, when we get to the bullpen. So just to lead it off, we got Tommy La Stella. Tommy La Stella, as I mentioned, he former bench player, never really had a chance to start. He only played in 80 games because of injury, but he really showed that he can stick it with some of the best. And he had 19 home runs in 80 games at a second base with a 288 average, and or sorry, not 19 home runs at a second base. I'm looking at the wrong thing. He had 16 home runs, a 295 average in 80 games, which is insane. And though he only walked 20 times in 292 at bats, he only struck out 28 times, which tells you he puts the ball in play a lot, which is very important. And so he's got a decent on base. He can do a lot with the bat, and he's pretty decent on defense too. It was funny. One of my friends, Caleb, he is a Angels fan, and he hated Tommy La Stella at the beginning of the season. Tommy La Stella had a really rough start, as I mentioned, including one of them where he cut off a pretty good throw from Cole Calhoun, which could have potentially prevented a run from scoring. And he's like, he's so bad. I need to get rid of him. And like a couple weeks later, oh, this Tommy La Stella guy. And I'm like, yeah, he's pretty good, huh? So yeah. Anyway, and then I don't think I really need to talk too much about Mike Trout. Five-tool superstar, dominating the league for the last, you know, 10 years he's been here, almost. This would be his 10th season, uh, and ninth full season. Last year, he did get injured, and well, he had like a couple nagging injuries, but that didn't stop him from having 100 R and only played 134 games. But it didn't stop him from hitting 45 home runs, which is his highest mark, 104 RBIs, which is his second highest mark, and having an OPS over 1,000, slugging over 600, and easily winning an MVP award again, and surpassing Derek Jeter and WAR in only 8 full seasons is pretty insane. The guy is the best player in the league without a doubt. And once again, this season, you're going to see another great season from him. Lots of power, lots of walks, lots of extra base hits, great fielding plays, good speed. But it's going to be all for naught because this team probably won't make the postseason because they have zero pitching, which we'll get into. I'm trying to save it for when we get to the pitchers. But they're wasting a generational talent because that now I guess now they think, oh, we have him for the rest of his life, so we don't need to try anymore. Um, your big offseason signing was Anthony Rendon, who obviously adding Anthony Rendon to your team is going to be great. I'll get into why I don't like the signing in a minute, but it has nothing to do with Anthony Rendon. He's an amazing player. He's been one of the best players in the league for the past few years. The last 3 years, hitting around 300 with good power, lots of RBIs, and he was really good in the postseason. And good batting eye too, and great deep. He's overall full package player with the exception of speed. Almost, he's got like a lot of things going for him. And so you signed him to a pretty big contract, a 7-year contract, which once again, good that you got a good player. But when we get to the pitching, I'll really lay into him for it because it just doesn't make sense why you sign this guy and no pitching. If you sign this guy and sign a big pitcher, it shows that okay, we're going to spend the big money for everything we need. But if you're only going to spend the big money to give Mike Trout a gigantic contract and Anthony Rendon a giant contract, and you don't spend any money on your pitching, which has consistently been the worst part of this team for the past you know few years. I don't know what you're trying to do or what you're trying to prove. Anyway, you have Shohei Ohtani, his season last year ended after getting knee surgery. He's been throwing, and he's definitely gonna. He's probably healed now if the season starts. And that guy is very talented two-way player. He can pitch pretty well. He can hit pretty well. Hit for a cycle last year. Got a lot of natural pop in the bat. Big question for him is can he stay healthy for a full season because he hasn't been able to do that so far. His very first season, he got Tommy John, and then the year after that, like obviously he's recovering from Tommy John, but then he gets knee surgery. Like you gotta, he's only 25. You gotta assume the best days are ahead of him because getting him healthy for full season could be a huge help to the Angels.
Can I ask what an
Um,
unnatural cycle is?
what?
You said he hit for a natural cycle last year. I asked what an unnatural cycle is.
Oh, I didn't realize I said natural cycle. I was meant to say cycle.
I mean, I could have like been only half paying attention and added the word natural in there, but I thought I was gonna learn something new. Kind of disappointed.
No, no, there's nothing new to learn there.
Pretty disappointed.
There's just cycles. Sorry to disappoint. Yeah. So hopefully he can stay healthy because that guy can be a huge talent for you guys because what you need is pitching and he even though in his limited pitching he had good numbers, not like definitely very good numbers, but not the ridiculous MPV numbers obviously, but that'd be like a lot to expect of anyone, especially in their first MLB season. But he had good numbers and he had anything would be an improvement over the current rotation you have. um You have Albert Pujols, the aging great Albert Pujols. He can't hit it 300 anymore, and he can maybe hit 20 home runs a year. But at the end of the day, it's Albert Pujols, and this guy is going into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he'll go in as an Angel because he definitely all of his stats, with the exception of one All Star appearances, happened between 2001 and 2011. But he's hit his milestones with the guys. He hit 3,000 hits in 2018, and now he's heading towards 700 home runs, which uh, not sure about. If the ball stay juiced the way they've been, he can hit 20 home runs somehow within the rest of the season. Maybe, but it might be a bit of a hope, bit of a stretch. So, especially since this is almost the end of his contract. He's at in year 9 right now. So maybe not hitting 700 home runs, but he'll come damn close. Um, so yeah, it's all. This is a guy you watch for the milestones because he's getting close to big ones, and he's already hit big ones. So, and he's a surefire Hall of Famer. Doesn't matter what he does. And another Angel story, thanks to my friend Caleb. He's at a game once, and the team was so not prepared for Albert Pujols to actually try and steal a base that he stole third. And he basically like walked there because no one was covering him, and he can't. And he walks when he runs. So, but it was pretty funny, and he got a standing ovation for stealing third, which was pretty awesome. Justin Upton, another pretty important guy for you. He was injured for almost the entirety of last season, and since signing with you guys, he's had he had really good power numbers in 2017 and 2018. The average is probably got a cannon arm. It's a kind of a mixed bag with him of what to expect from him. The most thing you're looking for is his big power because he's got a lot of power, and his ability to stay healthy because you can't afford big injuries this season with a team that's not nearly as deep as others in your league, in your division. Um, but yeah, he's been overall very solid for you guys, and as a solid outfielder and a good bat to have. You got Brian Goodwin as your last starting outfielder. He had a breakout last year at the 136 games, 262. 262 is not insane, but for a guy who's only hit, you know, who only hit 230 the year before and hasn't really had a full season, that's pretty good. Um, don't be surprised if he gets moved around a bit with like you have some guys who are coming up. Your biggest prospects for the Angels are outfielders. You got Joe Adell, Brandon Marsh, and Jordan Adams. I don't expect him to be in the starting role for the entirety of the season, but you know, good contact skills, not much else offensively to write home. He's not insane offensively, but he's decent. Anderson Simmons, defensive wizard, horrible hitter. Well, not horrible. He's had some pretty good offensive seasons, particularly 2018. He had 292, but he's never going to have a lot of power, and he doesn't really doesn't walk a whole lot, but he doesn't strike out a whole lot, so he puts the ball in play a lot, which is good. But this is the guy you watch for his defense because his defense is by far easily the best in the league out of any player, stat wise and metrics wise. And behind the plate, you have Jason Castro. Don't expect too much of him bat wise. Very much league average, not very good offensive catcher. You have Max Stassi, who you signed in the offseason, who behind the plate. Actually, did you sign him in the offseason? I'm sorry. I can't remember if you signed him this offseason or if he got traded. Let me check. No, he got traded last year, so he'll be your backup behind the plate. Including, you also have Anthony Bemboom, who's 30 and is only in his second major league season. Wouldn't expect much out of him. Not even sure if he will make the team. That's your starting lineup. A very good starting lineup, offense wise, and also it for some reason has David Fletcher on the bench. David Fletcher can play a lot of positions, and so he'll get reps when Tommy LaStella needs to rest or when Anthony Rendon needs to rest. And I imagine they'll put him at first base, from time to time because I don't imagine you're always going to want Pujols at first. So you'll see him around the diamond quite a bit. Definitely a utility player, and he's got too good of a bat to not use and take advantage of. So you got a lot of good hitters. You got significant power with Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon and Justin Upton, and you got decent contact with Tommy LaStella, Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, and you got a couple of guys who can really grind at bats like LaStella, Trout, Rendon, and Anderson Simmons. So overall, pretty solid and threatening lineup. Uh, as for your starters, this is where the team falls off the tracks. Like the starting lineup you guys have can make the post. I think that's a postseason lineup and one you should feel very good about. But then you get to your starters, and it's just it's nothing. Your current projected ace is Julio Tehran, who hasn't had the best of times since in a while. Um, he's shown flashes of being really great, and he had a pretty decent season last year. But overall, he's not your guy that you want to be your ace. He's a good pitcher. He's had pretty good success, but he's going to be throwing mostly light to contact fastballs and a hitter friendly park. It's going to be a very interesting experiment to see how he performs here. I expect since Shohei should be healthy, he'll be your ace, and his projected stats are looking pretty good. And he's been, very good. He's got really, really good hard stuff that he throws. So hopefully he can lead this rotation to being something better. Andrew Heaney had a pretty rough 2019. Um, he got injured, and he wasn't good when he was performing. He hasn't really had a complete season of good pitching, so that's your number two guy. Your big trade for pitching this offseason, your biggest need, you traded for Dylan Bundy, who has never had a good year in the majors yet. Now, obviously, he's playing in Baltimore, which is a hitter-friendly park, on a team that absolutely sucks. And so I can understand, a player like, struggling to really, get his competitive spirit on a team that's that bad. And so maybe a change of scenery will do him good, but, this isn't going to be a guy. This is a guy you're going to have to work on, and he's only got 2 years on your team. So I'm not. I just don't get it. You got Matt Andrees, who was in the bullpen last year. I don't. It wasn't good. I don't expect him to be in this lineup if they can help it. Um, your only pitching prospect you seem to be projected to call up this year is Patrick Sandoval. I actually got excited when I first saw it. I thought I saw Pablo Sandoval. Sorry, not getting called up. He got called up last season, but he's going to get a full season this time around. Looks like. And last year he wasn't the best starts. 10 games, 39 innings, 0-4, 5.03 ERA. He's got good strikeout stuff, but he does walk a fair amount of batters. His strikeout to walk ratio is about 2-1, which is not great, but eh. So hopefully he can have a decent season and really begin to adapt to the league and start to become a threat and develop into something for you guys, because you need a pitcher to develop well for you, because it's desperate. This rotation is horrible. Moving on to the bullpen, it's mostly average. You got Ty Buttrey, you got Cam Bedrosian, who are pretty average. You got Keenan Middleton, who's never really been up long enough or not injured long enough to really make a huge impact. So I can't really say too much about him. He's been good when he's had time, but he's never, he hasn't pitched in more than 11 games the past 2 years. Um, and Noe Ramirez had an overall decent season last year. So you got some decent arms. Your big surprise though is Hansel Robles. Hansel Robles is a Mets reject. In 2018, he had a 5.03 ERA. He was horrible. They DFA'd him. After that, the Angels scooped him up. He had a sub-3 ERA for them and had 2 saves in a bunch of innings, in like almost 40 innings for him. So coming into 2019, and that was a pleasant surprise. 2019, he comes in with a 2.48 ERA, closes 23 games, an uptick in velocity again, and strikes out 75 batters in 72 innings. So the guy can pitch in a lot of games. He can throw hard, and he can perform really well. His WHIP was only a 1.02, and he doesn't walk a whole lot of guys. He walks way more than he strikes out way more than he walks. So you got a steal. You got a guy who was DFA'd and really has turned his whole career around. If he can have another great season like he had last season this year, he can really establish himself as like a head of a otherwise whatever bullpen. And you always need that one lockdown guy, and that really could be a big help to management when it comes to trying to manage, you know, who come, what they need to do when they target trades. And you have a couple other guys who can end up making the rotation. I'm only going off of the projected lineup, but you can also have like Jamie Barria, who uh, isn't good, and Griffin Canning, who's been injured. So you can see the big problems on this team. Um, but yeah, this is what I mean. Like, you have ridiculous amount of talent. You have 3 Hall of Famers on your team in Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, and Albert Pujols. Now, obviously, Pujols is performing to his usual level that we, not as usual, but not to the level that you think when you think Albert Pujols. But you have 2 surefire Hall of Famers, and one guy is really fucking good, and a bunch of guys who are really fucking good, and you're wasting them. You're just saying, we'll just keep getting more bats because eventually our offense can score 30 runs a game. That's reasonable. Like that's what you're basically expecting them to do. Because when your best pitchers are expected to have a 3.95 ERA out of the rotation, that's not good. And I don't want to see a situation like you see in Colorado, where your star player signs a huge extension and then immediately regrets it the next season. But like you gotta perform because baseball is deprived of having its significantly best player not make the postseason. The player that everyone wants to see, uh, you don't get to see him in the postseason. Uh, I was asked a question by our our video editor. Uh, they are or not video editor, our
Yeah, I was gonna say, come on
sorry,
now. I don't do.
creativity and image design team
Thank you. I
leader.
don't do a lot for your videos, but I do edit them.
No, I know. I listen. I think I don't know.
It's all good.
He
It's
says,
all
are
good.
they're trying to out offense without good offense? No, they have good offense. They're trying to out offense bad pitching, which will happen. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this team hover around 500. But I don't see them as even if they somehow make the wild card, they don't have pitching to do anything in the postseason. And so this team, I expect this season to be frustrating because your team might be above 500, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were. But if they make the playoffs, don't expect them to win because barring their whole pitching staff outperforming their expectations, which you can expect one or two, but you can't expect a whole team of people outperforming. So anyway, moving on to our focus, Mike Trout, Mike Trout, Mike Trout, Mike Trout. So that's all I have to say about Mike Trout. It's obvious. It's power. It's contact. It's fielding. It's speed. It's the arm. It's everything. And he's the youngest player to be a surefire Hall of Famer the moment he hits 10 years of playing time. So the man's insane. He's had nothing but peak years and he's not even 30 yet. So Angels, please for the love of God, give him pitching to back up his offense. Because his back is going to break one day. It is going to just snap in half from all the carrying he does. Going next. Shohei Ohtani. Stay healthy, please. For the love of God. You know, obviously his bat's there. It's at a major league level, but he can't. You can't pay a guy this much money, and you can't for a fancy DH because your team needs pitching. And when he's pitched, he's been pretty good, and pretty good would be a huge improvement for your team. But I can't count him in my lineup thing until because like right now he's not even projected to be in the starting lineup or starting rotation. And now, obviously, if the season started tomorrow, he probably could make a case. He could probably make it. But the fact is, he's been injured and he can't stay healthy, and that's not a good thing for any player. So yeah, but overall, good bat. Electric pitching arm. Just needs to stay healthy. Moving on. Anthony Rendon, your big money purchase. He will be your Mike Trout of the infield. Now, not obviously the as insane as Mike Trout, but you know what? He hits for a decent amount of power. It's a lot. Plays good defense. He's going to be a lot of fun for you guys to have. And so he'll be your other guy you can really expect a huge performance out of. And moving on to the last guy, Hansel Robles, the only pure pitcher worth talking about on this team. He has been an absolute steal for the past 1.5 seasons you had him. I hope he can keep it up because he's going to need to carry his bullpen again. And hopefully get similar results out of him because that would put a huge weight off the Angels' shoulders. But yeah, so he's definitely the one to focus on in your bullpen. Moving on. Lineup. Honestly, it's an A minus. It's really, really good. I'm giving A minus because some players don't really have that good of a bat. Brian Goodwin is good, but he's not Yeah, I think you get the A- for having Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon back to back, which is insane. Yeah, you could easily see for the first time since Lou Gehrig and I don't know if it was Mickey. It was someone on an early Yankees, or actually no, since Babe Ruth and someone else on the 27 Murders Row Yankees had an OPS over 1,000. Like you could potentially see that they will be insane together in that lineup. And you also got Shohei Ohtani, and you got Andrelton Simmons, who though he doesn't hit for any power, is a pretty decent hitter and a grinder at the plate. Yeah, and you have uh, David Fletcher, and if Tommy La does what he does, you have Tommy La You have too good of a lineup, but you are, your catching offense is not great, and your third outfield option is kind of shaky, and and your bench is really, really weak, like insanely weak, and so I'm between A and A minus for that. I'm gonna stick with an A minus. I feel much more comfortable saying A minus than A because you know Pujols is his power is not getting better. It's getting worse, and his average has been hitting at 240s. It's not a good bat to have anymore, as sad as it is to say. Moving on, bullpen. I should give it a C plus. I feel like they have enough decent arms, and they have one stellar arm in Hansel Robles, who doesn't get enough credit for what he's done in the past 2 seasons. However, most of the players in there are not really up to the quality of a postseason ready bullpen. So that's why it sticks around the C area for me on there. Rotation, that's a D. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's so bad.
Oof.
Words cannot properly put into like how disappointing this team is, this pitching staff is compared to your offense. Actually, I'm gonna give their bullpen a C because Hansel Robles is good, and they don't have like a second really solid weapon behind him. And so like this like words gets out how disappointing it is. And the reason I'm not giving them an F is because they do have Shohei Ohtani who should be healthy,
Also because they're
and
not the Tigers.
they are not the Tigers. So there is that. Um, so they have like one bright spot. Really, Tehran, I don't want to trash him too much. He's a good pitcher, but he's not, you know, what this team needs to compete. So that's my overall assessment on the Angels. Just it's going to be frustrating for Angels fans when your lineup performs, but your staff always finds a way to blow it. So.
I mean, hopefully the team is not as kind of top heavy as it looks like. Hopefully, maybe some of those guys will have breakout seasons. Man, come on, you gotta look at the bright side.
Well,
Give
yeah,
it some
absolutely.
hope.
Like, you can expect like, every team. There's always gonna be one person minimum who has a breakout season that you weren't expecting. It always happens,
If you have one of
and
those in the
so,
rotation, the team could suddenly become a playoff team. I'm not gonna lie to you.
well, yes, it could be like that.
Especially in a shortened
Absolutely.
season, you really only need guys to get hot. Do you want to talk about that for a second? Because didn't they come to an agreement today?
No, I didn't come to an agreement. The MLB has suddenly realized they're in a shitty bargaining position and realize they will get the shit suit out of them pretty soon by the Players Association because they're not negotiating in good faith, and there's a bunch of grievances they could air. Um,
But even
but
let's assume that it's a shortened season, because I don't see how they could get 182 games
oh
in,
no, it's gonna 100% be a shortened season.
or 162 games, excuse me. Um, But so in a shortened season, especially, all you really need is one or two guys that get hot at the right time. Especially if you're talking about a pitching staff when they have a lineup like that, one or two guys get hot at the right time, and all of a sudden you're looking at making a playoff push. So
Well, that's any pitching staff though. Like that, they
I mean, yeah, but
because
they don't
like
always have the lineup to back them up. You know what I mean? Like,
that is true. They do have the lineup to back it up, and so it could be possible. But like looking at it on paper, like I can't get my grades off of what could happen because
oh, absolutely
absolutely,
not, absolutely
like
not.
Julio Teheran could have to return to form, and you know Dylan Bundy can suddenly turn it around. But the fact is, it's just not likely.
Oh no, I'm not trying to say that you should change your grades. I actually think the
Oh no,
grading
no, I know
system
you're
makes
not.
sense. I'm just trying to give Angels fans some hope because you do have a solid lineup.
Yeah, your
And
lineup's insane.
you've got a good closer, it sounds like. So if you can just have that one guy, You only need really one guy in the rotation to get hot at the right time, and you could make a push for a playoff spot. But obviously, that's all hypothetical. I'm just trying to give the team, the benefit of the doubt.
And
Maybe they'll figure it
hypothetically,
out.
and that's the thing. If the Angels could also just decide, we're going to trade for that, and so if they end up trading for it, that could be huge.
I'm not
So,
gonna lie. I really like Mike Trout. I really like the way he carries himself. Obviously, he's a
no,
great
absolutely,
player.
everyone fucking loves watching Mike
Yeah.
Trout.
So
Mike
he's
Trout.
he's obviously a great player, but I also really like how he carries himself. So I'm kind of just rooting for him.
Did you hear my Mike Trout focus? I just said Mike Trout 5 times. Like that's really what I have to say about him.
That's fair enough. The creativity and image design team has said someone could ascend to godhood. So
Mike Trout already has.
yeah, you're a little bit behind on that curve. Maybe they could have a second coming in Shohei Ohtani, maybe. Um,
Yeah, that could happen. And but yeah, it does only take really one person to get hot at the right time. But I mean,
Listen, when you've got a lineup like that, if you can just get that one or two guys that can just give you like you don't need anything super crazy, just don't give up 6 runs. You know what I mean? Like when
yeah,
you've
no, if
got a
they can get
lineup
these
like
guys,
that.
listen, like I think the ERA projections for everyone having around a 4 is accurate. If they can get these guys around a 3, 350, 330, like that would be insane. Like that would significantly improve this team. But the problem, the quality of guys they haven't shown that quality either ever or not in a long time. So
Hey man, I'm gonna cross my fingers for Mike Trout. I hate to see it, man. I really hate
no,
to see it.
it's ridiculous that a team that has this good of a lineup has zero pitching.
I'm honestly surprised. If I was Mike Trout, I don't think I would have re-upped on that big contract. So Angels fans, you should. I
I
would.
think he likes because that's it. Like he genuinely like that. That's the other thing. They got lucky. If it's a player who really like he loves that. He clearly loves that organization. He's talked about it before. He wanted to stay at the organization because they're the ones who drafted him. And people players have talked about it. You feel loyalty to that thing, and they were also willing to make him the most paid player of all time. He makes. I need to find the breakdown of it, but he makes they broke it down in the minute how much money he makes now, and so but yeah, like if it's so hard to justify signing an extension like that. At least when you're not that person.
I mean, listen, man. Yeah, listen. You can't turn down that bag. You can't. All that money, plus in the city you love. But at a certain, I think towards the end of his career, he's gonna, or not the end of his career, but the end of his prime, he's gonna start to get a little bit restless if they haven't found some success. But I do want to give a shout out to Jason for calling the Los Angeles Angels the Los Angeles Mike Trout's team because that honestly is what it's felt like for the past few years.
It is. There's a really good ending to one video. I think it was a Foolish Baseball said it because they've changed their name so many times. The Los Angeles Angels of California of Anaheim because they can't figure out where they're from. And they're not even in they're in Anaheim. Like what the hell?
I guess they just didn't mess with the Anaheim Angels. I guess it just wasn't vibing for them.
They won a World Series with the Anaheim Angels.
Yeah, they weren't vibing anymore though. They needed to go compete with the Dodgers
Well,
because that makes sense.
yeah. Let's see how well it's worked out for them so far. At least one of the teams can make the World Series.
We're not gonna talk about the record in the World Series though, are we?
Listen, we don't need to talk about the record. It sucks. They're 0-2. I mean, one time they got literally cheated out of it, but they, at the end of the day,
Yeah, water under the bridge. If you get there, listen. It's my argument for LeBron all the time, isn't it? I gotta bring it up here. It fits.
oh
If
Jesus.
if they can successfully make deep playoff runs, you've got to give them credit for that. So I mean, it's fun to joke about. Oh well, what's the record? They made it to
Oh,
World Series.
absolutely.
They are great baseball
The,
teams.
the Dodgers deserve credit for doing so in the playoffs, but the fact they haven't been able to seal the deal, and that's what happens. Like everyone discounts 2018 and 2019 as or no, 2017 2018 because they lost, but at the end of the day, that team was the best team in the National League by far.
That was a
And like
very very good baseball team. It just pains me to see. I love Clayton Kershaw, and if he retires without a ring, I'm gonna be very upset.
yeah, everyone he has a pretty bad postseason record, but like people like to overblow it, and like they were running over his jersey after he gave up the game-tying home run,
He had no
which
business
in a
coming in,
situation
man.
we had no business being in there. I hate this. It's all because of fucking Madison Bumgarner and Bruce Bochy. Because Bruce Bochy put Madison Bumgarner into that epic game 7 to close out the series. And so then, teams became obsessed. Let's get our ace pitcher to close out series because that's a lot. That's what you should do.
Any of you
I don't know.
athletes
Put your
out
fucking
there,
closer out there.
any of you athletes out there will be able to relate to this, and any of you non-athletes, I want you to understand when you play a game for so long, when you're active in a sport for so long, you get into a routine, you get into a habit, and it can sometimes be very hard to perform if that pattern, if that habit is broken. He became one of the best, if not the best starters in the league, and I guarantee
At a
you he
time
did
when
the
the
same
Dodgers
thing.
sucked, he peaked when the Dodgers sucked,
Absolutely, and
which is
a
like the
large part
worst
of that.
part. And people are like, "Oh, like, he didn't get to make the playoffs in seasons where he won." I don't know if they actually. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they didn't make the postseason when he won both MVP and Cy Young in the same season.
Anybody who ran over his jersey, I think, doesn't understand how hard it is to be an athlete because that's not a position he trained for. I understand that he's getting paid all this money and all. He's one of the best pitchers in the league. How are you gonna give that
Oh,
up?
never mind. Never mind. He made the postseason and gave up 8 runs, and he struck out 10 and gave up 8 runs. Okay.
Well, that's different. You know what I mean? If he had a bad start, he had a bad start. That's completely different. But to come at him for giving up that run in the World Series, you
And
can't.
not in the world in the
Was it the
NLDS. Like,
NLDS?
yeah, this past season is the NLDS.
All right, my fault. Whenever it was, doesn't matter. He's
I'm
not.
bouncing between
He's
postseasons
not a
right now, so.
reliever. He's not a reliever. I'm sorry, he's not. And so, if you're gonna come at him, you're gonna run over his jersey in the street, like you said, because he gave up a run at an inopportune time. Yeah, obviously, I'm sure he would love to have that back, have another chance at it. But that rhythm was broken. It's so hard to go out and be able to perform that, and that just speaks to perform under those circumstances. That just speaks to how good Madison Bumgarner really is and especially was during that time period, that he can break that rhythm and still come in and perform. There are a ton of players that you throw off one thing, one little thing about their routine, and they just can't do anything. And
And that's the thing, the way that the league works, obviously starting pitchers have amazing stuff. That's why they become starting pitchers. But you know, if per like a 1 inning type deal, starting pitchers can have really good stuff over the course of multiple innings. Relievers are there that they have amazing lights out stuff for 1 inning. That is their job. That's why Aroldis Chapman has an amazing fastball that you can only throw for 1 inning, and it's going to be better than Garrett Cole's fastball. Garrett Cole can strike out, 20 batters over the course of a game, but he can't be, coming in for 1 inning and expecting to like do something you don't do. Like, come on.
yeah, absolutely. And coming from a non-baseball perspective, like our
Yeah.
creativity image design team,
Once again, image design. He didn't do it purposely. Like, get off his ass. Yeah, he's better than every single one. And anyone who ran over his fucking jersey, those bastards, you're not a baseball fan. You're just a piece of shit.
you don't
Like,
understand
the
the
man's given
game
so
if you
much
ran
to the
over his
team.
jersey. In my opinion, I understand being upset. Like I completely understand being upset. Like stuff happens. As a fan, you're gonna be upset, but you can't do that. That's disgraceful in my
I
opinion.
mean, he's thrown a no hitter, which, by the way, if it wasn't for Hanley Ramirez having a terrible error, would have been a perfect game. Which I think of a no hitter is because there was an error. It's a perfect game. He threw a perfect game. Um, he had a pitching triple crown, 3-time Cy Young Award winner, almost won 4 in a row, MVP. Like, the man is a wins leader, multiple time ERA leader, multiple time strikeout leader. The guy is insane, and the fact that this is not even Clayton. This is not the Dodgers video. What the fuck are we on Clayton Kershaw for? How did we get here?
Because I said that they were competing with the other team in Los Angeles, and that it
Oh,
didn't work out
yeah,
well for
we
them.
got a little tangent.
We did, but
All
I think
right.
it was deserved. It needed to be said
No, it did. I was gonna. Probably we can revisit this
in a later video. But tomorrow I go to the Rams, and then Monday, wow, we actually go to the Dodgers on Monday.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah, because we're doing all the LA teams, so I'm excited to talk about them. Good team. Oh
Alrighty.
God. So go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, let us know what you think. If you are an Angels fan that thinks your team's gonna dominate and your pitching is gonna, have a Cy Young performance on their team, and you're gonna dominate the postseason, well, you're delusional, and I'm sorry. But if you have something you want to add, and you want to talk about it, yeah, if you want to discuss anything, I love talking baseball. God knows I talk about it enough to Jeremy, who, you know, he knows baseball, but not as well as I do.
I know the game of baseball. I'm less
The game.
acclimated with the players of baseball.
Let's add to the players, and I get really into the stats and shit. But anyway, moving on. Uh, and come check out our Discord, and check out our Chargers video from yesterday, and Jeremy's Chargers video, I should say. And Jeremy's Rams video tomorrow. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. So I think he covered all of our bases. Like you said, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Peace.